Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Candid, Committed to Building Nonprofit Capacity. For those of you who are returning GrantSpace webinar participants, a warm welcome back. And to those of you here for the first time, I'm very glad that you're joining us today. We also want to give a shout out to the two webinar viewing parties that are happening in San Francisco and in Washington, D.C. right now, hosted by our fellow Candid colleagues. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. All right. So let's get started. So as I've mentioned earlier, my name is Julieta Mendez, and I'm Director of Programs for Candid based in New York. And I'm one of your hosts for today's webinar. I'm also joined by my colleague, Gabe Cohen, Senior Director of Marketing and Communications for Candid, and he's based out of Washington, D.C. Today, we're going to talk about the combined tools that Candid has available for you to strengthen your skills in your nonprofit organization. Some of you might be asking yourselves, what is Candid? So why don't we begin there? So in February of this year, Foundation Center and GuideStar joined forces to form a new single organization called Candid. Together, we have over 88 years of experience in the nonprofit sector. And why Candid? Well, every year, millions of nonprofits spend trillions of dollars around the world. Candid finds out where that money comes from and where it goes and why it matters. We believe that an effective social sector is critical for a thriving society. And we also believe in the importance of solutions for the sector and by the sector. Candid enables nonprofits, foundations, donors, and the public to all be on the same page. For more than 30 years, Foundation Center has connected nonprofits to the resources they need to thrive. We have been offering skills, insights, and network opportunities to nonprofit professionals like yourself to build a stronger social sector. We have been and will continue to be a trusted source for funding information. And as Candid now, our priority has not shifted. Today, we're going to be focusing on a select suite of Candid tools that are designed specifically to help you strengthen your skills and your organization. You will learn about GrantSpace, the GuideStar Nonprofit Profile, GuideStar Search, the Nonprofit Compensation Report, and additional resources such as IssueLab. We will have time for a Q&A at the end, as I mentioned earlier, so please do submit your questions throughout the presentation. All right, and to get us started, we have a poll question here for you today. It's very simple. We just want to know if you've ever used grantspace.org to access any nonprofit education trainings, tools, or resources. So if you have, just reply yes, no, and if you don't know what GrantSpace is, you can also just reply, I don't know. And I see a couple of responses coming in already. All right. What percentage are we collecting? Do we have so far? 74. All right, we have 74%, 75% of our respondents have voted. And what I'm seeing here, and can we share the, let's close the poll and share the responses. Thank you. So what I'm seeing here is that a great majority of you, 54%, all right, have used GrantSpace before. 41% have not, and then only 5% don't know what GrantSpace is. So this actually is music to my ears, and we have a couple other colleagues listening in, and I'm sure it's music to their ears as well. So we're happy to know that you are at least aware of GrantSpace, even if you haven't used it before. And so right now, what I'm going to do is just give you a very quick demo. And so that those of you that are not too familiar with it can learn more about it. And for those of you who haven't been on GrantSpace for a while, you will see that we actually not too long ago got a facelift. So we're looking pretty good. So I will begin first by saying, when you go to our new website, which is candid.org, and this is the website that you're seeing here on your screen, To find all of our tools and resource, you can simply click on this arrow here on the top right-hand side of the screen where it says Candid at a glance. And there you will find all of our websites and our products and services, all in one place. And so down here, that's where you would click to go to GrantSpace. And there are a couple of other resources here that we're going to be sharing with you later on, but for now, let's just focus on that one. So when you click on GrantSpace, it takes you to this tab, to this page here. And so voila, you've arrived. So GrantSpace is Candid's online learning platform. This is where we provide you with all of the training opportunities that you need. We also provide other resources, for example, like knowledge base articles that provide information on, how do you start a nonprofit, to what is fiscal sponsorship, all of those technical, all that technical information that you need to be able to run an effective nonprofit organization, you can find here under our resources, under knowledge base articles. We also provide some great sample documents for those of you that are working on proposals. We have sample cover letters, letters of inquiry, we have actual proposals, budgets. We have full proposals. All of these have been awarded grants in the past, and they have been shared with us by funders themselves, or by the nonprofits themselves. And so all of these have been approved to be shared with our public. So you can find all of that good stuff here. We also have a way for you to now borrow ebooks, which I'm showing here. You don't have to come to one of our physical locations anymore. You can just borrow ebooks directly from GrantSpace. And in terms of training, this is where you can find all of the training that we have available for nonprofit professionals. As you can see, we have online trainings, mostly in the format of webinars, such as the one that you are participating right now. But we also have in-person trainings and programs available in each one of our regional locations. So if we click on live, for example, it will take us to a listing of all of the trainings that we have going on throughout our various regions. You can look at these, in list format, or if it's easier for you, you can also look at them in calendar format so that you can see everything that's happening during the month of April. Here we have it. So for example, all this programming has been going on in April across all of our 5 regions, and also online. As you can see, we have quite a lot going on. Down here, we have some more updated information. For example, tomorrow in Atlanta, Georgia, for those of you that are joining us from the southern part of the US, we have a Design for Impact, how nonprofits demonstrate success. And so you can find all those details and all that information here. And we always specify when something is happening in person or when something is happening online. So I invite you to explore our calendar of trainings. In addition to live programming online and in person, we also have what we call on-demand programs. And if we click on that, what does on-demand mean? On-demand means that, this is basically a compilation of self-paced e-learning courses, knowledge-based articles, videos, podcasts that you can pretty much take advantage of and learn from on your own time, anywhere in the world, wherever in the world you may be. So, whether you're at home, or you are in a co-working space, or whether you are, at a beach somewhere and decided that you really want to, learn about writing proposals, you can do that by coming to GrantSpace, going to our on-demand trainings, and checking out any of our materials, of our offerings that we have listed here. And you can see that we also have a lot of information that is available for free that you can check out. We also have some courses that are a bit more in-depth, that are more skill building, that we do charge a nominal fee for. So there's quite a variety that you can definitely take advantage of here to build your expertise and to build your skills, to perform better with your nonprofit. And finally, for organizations that are looking to build either the skills of their staff members, or if you are a funder and you want to build the skills of your grantees, or if you're a membership organization and you want to provide some capacity building for your membership, for your members, we also have training specifically for organizations. And so we work with you to design and customize learning opportunities that can help your staff, your grantees, or your members, meet their goals, meet their learning goals. So reach out to us about this as well if you would like to know more. So that is a very quick introduction demo on GrantSpace, on our new and improved GrantSpace. I invite you to continue to look through all of the resources that we have on here. If you have any questions, you can always go to the Ask Us feature that we have available. We have people chatting. We have online librarians that are available to chat with the public every single day. And you can see the chat box down here. So always, please do reach out to us and ask us any questions that you might have. So that is GrantSpace. And now, without further ado, I would like to pass the microphones over to my colleague, Gabe Cohen, who is now going to talk about the GuideStar tools and resources that are now also available through Candid. And
hi,
Gabe, yes, how are you, Gabe?
Good, and I'm happy to be joining your audience today. And that was a great overview of GrantSpace. It's fun. While we're still getting to know each other as new colleagues, I learn more every time I get a demo of one of the kind of classic Foundation Center tools or resources. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. All right, it's all yours.
All right, excellent. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Washington, D.C. So I hope that you all have pleasant weather as well where you're calling in from. So we're going to talk a little bit, like Julieta said, about the different GuideStar resources that are at your disposal. And that's one of the great parts about our two organizations coming together, is that we both have resources that we think are really relevant and helpful to the others' audiences. And so that's what we're here to do today, is just to show you some of the ways that GuideStar can help you do your job better. And really the central focus of that is our GuideStar nonprofit profiles. So we're going to go ahead and launch a poll here. And just curious how many of you know if your organization has a GuideStar nonprofit profile. So the three answers are yes, we do, no, we don't, or you're not quite sure is that third answer. So we're gonna let responses come in. Great, and I'll just give it another minute here. Thanks everybody for participating. And we can go ahead and close that up now. And we've got some great results that we're gonna share here with you all. So about 53% of you said that you do, about 31% of you said that you don't, and about another 15 or 16% aren't sure. So apologies, but this was a little bit of a trick question. All IRS registered nonprofits in the United States have profiles on GuideStar. Now, I'm just going to include a little bit of an asterisk with that, because if you're a faith-based organization, you do not kind of natively have a profile on GuideStar, but every other organization does. And so if you were in that 31% that thinks that you don't, or the 16% that isn't sure, the chances are that you do indeed have a profile on GuideStar. And so what I'm going to talk about today is the opportunity that you have to come in and update that profile on GuideStar. And so you can really share the latest and greatest about your organization with our audiences. And so I'm going to dive into all of that a bit more. But let's start by looking at what's in those nonprofit profiles. And like I said, your profile is kind of what you make of it. On the left-hand side, you're seeing something that you would see on an organization who may not have claimed their profile yet on GuideStar and started to update that information. And on the right-hand side, you're seeing what we call our platinum information, which I'm going to get into a little bit later. But this is really the numbers behind how your organization is having a difference, the really meaningful things that we know that donors want to see before they potentially give you a donation or before a foundation gives you a grant. And so let's just take a look at that. And I want to start by showing you all what a profile looks like for an organization that hasn't updated that profile yet. So apologies if anybody here is from the Willow Tree Fund that's based out of Boston. I certainly hope not. But if you are, we'll say that you've got an opportunity here to go ahead and update your profile and share a better version of your story. So our profiles are broken down into 4 different sections: a summary section, a program section, a financials, and an operations. And so again, what I'm showing you here is really just that a profile of an organization that hasn't updated their profile yet. And so you're going to see some really basic information: the year they were created, maybe a mailing address, an EIN, some cause area information. Potentially you'd be able to download some of their Forms 990. In this case, it's probably not a full 990, but one of the either easy or postcard versions. And then for programs and results, because they're not sharing that information either on their 990 or with GuideStar directly, then the world is not going to see anything about your organization. So again, if you're one of those organizations that hasn't claimed your profile, this is going to be blank for you. And so if someone is coming and checking out your organization for one reason or another, they're not going to see this really important programs and results information. For financials, they may see just a little bit of information, that we're getting again from either the Forms 990 or the IRS Business Master File, which is a document that the IRS releases on a regular basis that we ingest into our database. But it's not a ton of meaningful information. Generally, you could start to see the size here based on their expenses, but that may be about it. Operationally, again, you might just see a little bit of information that is based on that 990 about the highest paid employees and the officers. And in this case, you're not going to see anything about board of directors. You're not going to see anything about governance best practices. We all know how important it is to kind of put our best foot forward from that perspective. There's a lot else that's missing that I'm going to switch over now and show you on an organization's profile that has fully updated their information. And so what you're seeing here is an organization called Exceptional Minds that's based out of California. And I'm going to kind of use them as our guinea pig for the rest of our demos today. And this organization has earned a platinum seal of transparency in the 2018 version. In just a minute, I'm going to show you all what each of those, what you have to do to earn one of those seals. But let's just take a look at this profile. And I want you to think about how much more of a robust and kind of true story you're seeing here, as opposed to the previous profile that I was showing you for the Willow Tree organization. One of the things right up front that you can see here is that there's a donate button that users can click on to automatically donate, to kind of just instantly donate to your organization. So if they see what they like when they're coming to check out your profile, they can just go ahead and donate right away. Summary, right away, you're going to see even more, so much information. It's not just that basic information, but then you're going to see some information about their funders. That previous organization, you couldn't even see their mission. So here you see their mission and a logo, keyword information. This is great. It's really helpful for users that are on GuideStar's search engine to be able to find your organization. You can even include a note and then links out to your different social media handles. We all know how important those are from a communications perspective. Then you get down to the programs and results information. And this is where it really starts to become a much more in-depth story that you're telling about your organization. This is a simple solution statement that we've allowed organizations to start to enter right up at the top here, what you're trying to solve as an organization. And then you can start to click on these and see the different program information. So just quick little paragraphs here and maybe some budget information or population served about each of these different programs. And like I said, this organization is based out of California. And so you can even start to see the geographical area served, which is such great information that so many different funders and donors want to see, right? For so long, all of us as nonprofits have been tied to our mailing addresses, and we've really tried to break that paradigm a little bit and allow you to report on each and every one of your programs where you are serving your population. Results, and so this is that platinum information that I spoke of earlier. And we know more and more donors want to see this. They want to see the numbers behind how your organization is making a difference to accomplishing your mission. And so you can see here, this organization has 4 different metrics that they've tracked back to 2014. So it's great. You can really see growth here, the number of students who receive scholarship funds or tuition assistance. And so that's great. They're really growing over the last 4 years. And then you can start to see again, is it related to a program? Is it related to a population served? And then you can add some contextual notes as well. Just so everybody knows, you can, there's a couple of different options when you're going to enter this information. The first is that you can use one of the metrics that's in our common results catalog. And that's a kind of a helpful book that we created that's built into the digital tool that allows you to select metrics that are relevant to your organization. So you can narrow in on a human services organization if you work for an organization like this, and then it's going to bring up a whole bunch of different metrics that you could use. And so if you don't know what to display, that's kind of a helpful hint. You can also enter your own custom metric though, if you want, if you're already tracking something and you want to add it. We may suggest through that process that your custom metric is really similar to one of our common metrics, because we do want to, as a sector, kind of evolve the dialogue, if you will, to allow for more of an apples to apples comparison between organizations. So that is that program information. Additionally, with those numbers, we also have 5 questions that are called our charting impact questions. And with that, you can start to answer kind of how your organization is making a difference, but in a narrative form. So the platinum information is numbers, and then this is the gold level information, the charting impact questions, is kind of the story, the words behind how your organization is making a difference. So you can upload photos and videos. This organization has some photos of their graduating classes, which is just awesome to see. You know, we all know how much of a difference it makes when donors are looking and evaluating our organizations to really see the people or the populations that we're serving. And then here's the financial information. And so I just want to give you a heads up. I'm going to dive into this in a minute a bit more, but what you're seeing here is kind of a pro version of a profile. And so you're going to see a little bit more in depth than you would if you were looking at one of the free versions of our profiles. So just wanted to flag that. But here you're starting to see this great and kind of dynamic information about an organization's finances. And for Exceptional Minds, you're really seeing the story of how much they've grown as an organization over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And you can just hover over it and you can see year by year how they're making their money, right? And so this is the program services revenue, and this is different contributions, and you can see a percentage of total revenue that makes over the years, and just how much of that revenue it is. The red dotted line here is their kind of net gain or loss. So you can see kind of how profitable they are as an organization. I'm going to come back to some of these financial data points in a second, but I just want to go over some of the other information that you can then update about your organization while you're updating your profile. So you can update information about your board chair and vice chair, about leaders of your organization. You can update the numbers of employees, full-time employees that you have as an organization. Again, more information about your leaders, how much their compensation is. And then there's board best practices questions that I was talking about before. Very quickly, just yes or no questions that you can answer to really show that your organization is thinking about its governance in a sophisticated way. Next up, you can show your organization's demographics. I will say that when I go around the country and talk at different conferences or meet with different foundations, this is one of the things that comes up the most. Foundations really want to see that you're taking your organization's demographics seriously, and this is a great and easy way to do that. You can report on your organization across different kind of groupings, board members, full-time staff, part-time staff, and senior staff, and across different types of demographics, such as gender, race and ethnicity, sexual orientation, and disability. There's a pretty easy interface that you can use to do that. And it's a great way to just show, again, as an organization that you're thinking about it and you care about issues related to diversity. Again, then you can just quickly report on your diversity strategies. Which of these 7 things are you doing as an organization? So again, I just want to try to contextualize that a bit more as to the difference in kind of how robust the story is that you're able to tell between an organization that hasn't updated a profile and an organization that has earned one of our seals of transparency. So I'm going to move on to that now and just talk quickly about those seals of transparency, and then I'll go through again very quickly what each of these different seals mean. So just want to start off that these are not accreditations, these are not ratings like Charity Navigator. Instead, these are just simply recognition of the fact that your organization is indeed being transparent and kind of what level of transparency that is. So bronze level information is maybe so your organization can be found and some of that program information that I was showing earlier. Silver information is about your organization's financials so that people can grow trust in you. Next up is that gold information, again, the narrative behind how your organization is making a difference. And then lastly is that platinum information about how your organization is making a difference in kind of a numbers form, quantitatively speaking. So very quickly, I'm just going to breeze through what you have to do to earn each of those seals of transparency. And as I do this, what you're going to look for is those fields that are red, that have the asterisks. And those are the things that you have to update in order to earn each of the seals. So again, basic contact information for bronze and just some basic program information. For silver, if you have an audited financial statement, that's it. If that's simple, just update that from the last couple of years and you're good to go. If not, it's just about 5, 6, 7 different financial fields that you should have laying around. Next up is those gold questions, right? Those charting impact questions, and just 5 questions on how your organization is making a difference, how you're measuring it, your capabilities, and your progress thus far. Platinum information is again, those numbers behind how you're making a difference. So let's just see now, let's do another quick poll and see how many of you have earned a seal of transparency already. So we're going to go ahead and launch that poll. And your options are yes, you do, and you're at one of those early seals of either bronze or silver. The second option is that you do, and you're at one of those higher seals of gold or platinum. That's awesome for those of you that are. And then lastly, you may not have a seal of transparency or you don't know, and that's okay. That's what we're here to talk about today. Great. So thank you again for participating. And I think we can go ahead and close up that poll. We'll share the results with everybody. So again, not surprisingly, based on our earlier poll, many of you don't quite have a profile yet. So I hope that that changes in the next couple of weeks. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that. But we do have about 26% of you that have earned a bronze or silver seal, and then about 14% that have a gold or platinum. So that's awesome. And congratulations for those of you that do have a seal of transparency. So I showed you what is on a profile. Next, I want to kind of talk quickly about why you should update your profile. And so for that, I'm going to go back to kind of what GuideStar is at its core. And we use this diagram to show that. And it starts on the left-hand side with our inputs. And that's all of the different data sources that we have that are providing information that go on to populate our nonprofit profiles. And all of that information then lives with us, with GuideStar as a data hub in the center there. And then it goes out via a couple of different channels that I'm going to talk to you about to a huge group of users kind of around the digital nonprofit ecosystem. And those users could be anyone from other nonprofits to donors to people that work for the government, volunteers, beneficiaries, foundations, researchers, on and on and on. So what I want to talk about first is that information that is starting with you all on the left-hand side from nonprofits or the IRS. And then when you update that information, it lives in our hub. and it goes out through our website to all of those different, again, nonprofits and donors and so on and so forth. So I just want to provide some scale to how many people are looking at our website each year. And for that, I'm going to use my little buddy here named Walter to do a quick demonstration. And so Walter represents 100,000 of those better informed users that come to GuideStar.org each year. And last year, we had over 10 million people come to our site and look at information on organizations just like yours before they give a grant, or as they're writing an article for their local newspaper, or if they're a funder, or if they're an individual donor before they give that individual contribution. And so that's great. We're thrilled. That's grown about 1 million users per year for the last 3 or 4 years. And so we continue to see growth there. But the other channel that I want to talk about that not everybody knows about is that information doesn't just live on GuideStar.org. It goes out through a whole number of partners that use that information to power their charitable platforms, or to inform the way that they talk about philanthropy and nonprofits. And so let's just kind of go through who some of those different organizations are. So it starts with major universities. We have a huge network of libraries, university libraries that use our information. We also work with quite a few different community foundations that go on and they use our information to power their charitable searches and donation tools. Banks, financial institutions, all sorts of different media we work with on a very regular basis, crowdfunding sites and other donation platforms, lots of different social media platforms, and some of the Silicon Valley institutions, donor advised funds. Almost all major donor advised funds use information from GuideStar to power their searches. Grants management systems, you all may not know these by name, but when you're applying for grants, more than likely you're going to be using one of these types of software, and they're going to be using our information to power some of what they do. And then lots of other organizations like change.org that you may have heard of, and Volunteer Match. So I just want to highlight a few of those and how they use this information. So let's start with Facebook, right? So I would imagine most of you are aware at this point that Facebook now offers the opportunities for nonprofits and their supporters to run fundraisers to get you more donations. This is a great program that Facebook launched a few years ago through their social good team, and we worked with them to help to create the functionality to do this. And there's a couple of different ways that we work with them. The first is that they use our information when they're kind of signing you up as a nonprofit to register you for this program and verify that you are indeed in good standing with the IRS. And then the second way that they use us is down here as donors are going through the process of potentially donating to an organization. They're prompted to visit GuideStar.org, to visit that organization's GuideStar nonprofit profile in order to learn more information. And quite honestly, we're pretty flattered by this. This is Facebook who's saying, hey, if you want to learn more about something, go to GuideStar. They're the experts here. They've got that information that you need. And it's really good that Facebook is doing this. They want to inform donors and allow them to make better decisions. So they had more than 1 million donors last year that raised more than $1 billion for different nonprofit organizations. And over 270,000 people, over 1 million people came from Facebook to GuideStar to do that additional step of just looking a little bit more at organizations before donating last year. And more than 270,000 of those were just in November. On Giving Tuesday, we had more than 100,000 people that probably were a part of that matching grant program that the Gates Foundation did with Facebook. So we really like that. We like to see that users are doing their research before they give. Additionally, when you earn a gold or platinum seal of transparency on GuideStar, and if your organization is rated by Charity Navigator, we launched a partnership with them last year so that that gold and platinum information just shows up on your organization's page on Charity Navigator. So you can see here those charting impact questions and that platinum information. If you've earned one of those seals of transparency, you'll see it there. So again, $45 million was donated through Charity Navigator last year. So you can start to see how important that is and how much time we can really save you. You come and update your profile once and it's going to go out to all these places. Also, Amazon Smile has been a partner of ours for quite a while now, and they use us again as some of that vetting process and then as that backbone of information when someone is selecting the organization they want to give to at smile.amazon.com. Some other ones real quick: Google's donation platform, CrowdRise, Fidelity Charitable, and then Capital One. That Capital One screenshot is actually from my credit card. I could donate my points to an organization using GuideStar's search engine. So we know about 10 million people came to GuideStar.org last year. And then we know that for sure there's about another 10 or 15 million people that are seeing that information on our different partners. But on top of that, there's just a ton more that we really aren't able to track at this point. But all in all, it's tens of millions of people that are seeing that information that lives and starts on your profile on GuideStar and then gets out there to the world, either via our website or via our partners' platforms. So lastly, just one more data point on why we think it's important to update your profile. So there was a researcher out of Villanova University that did some really great research over the last couple of years and wanted to look at if transparency made a difference in nonprofit organizations. So what that researcher did was they looked at organizations that one year did not have a seal of transparency on GuideStar, and then the next year did earn a seal of transparency on GuideStar. And what that researcher found is that as a group, contributions between that first year of not having a seal and that second year of having a seal went up 53%. And that's a pretty wonderful statistic from our perspective, because it really shows the difference that being transparent as an organization can make. This research was peer reviewed and then published in actually an accounting journal again. So we really think that they did a great rigorous job to look into that information. You can find more on that at guidestar.org/transparency. So how do you update your profile? So I'm going to take you through the steps real quick. And just know that to really start this process, you can go to guidestar.org, or if you want to skip a few steps, you can go to guidestar.org/update. But the first step is to go ahead and create an account if you don't have one already. So that starts in the top right. And then with that, we're gonna want to match you with your nonprofit organization. We're gonna have you just verify your email address. Again, we have a process in place to try to make sure that you are indeed affiliated and have permission to update your profile on GuideStar before we let you do that. And so part of that is just, again, verifying that email address. So once you do then, you'll be prompted to go to this page, and you can click on either of the two update buttons and then the Get Started Now button. There is one last form that we want you to fill out. And again, this is just all from the sake of, we want to make sure that you are indeed linked with your organization and that you're the right person. And so we just go through one little step here. I'm going to switch over and just show you again very quickly what the back end looks like when you're going to update your profile. So what you're seeing here is GuideStar's old profile. We are now have a Candid profile. But I just very quickly, I'm going to show you this so that you can, again, see what it will take to just update that profile. So you simply just go into the platform and you start working through it just like you would any other form. We also have a Word document that you can download if you want to kind of do this offline first and work with some colleagues that you can fill out. And you just start filling out the information. Again, the pieces of information you need, you're going to see the asterisks with them. You can switch around from one of the different fields to another field. And then gold, platinum information, and then here's that extra information, social media, demographics, and board information. None of that is linked to a specific seal, and so it's just as easy as updating your information this way. So that's it. It's just that easy. We hear that most organizations can update their profile and earn a seal of transparency in as little as kind of a half hour, 45 minutes to get that bronze seal. It can take a bit longer to earn some of the gold and platinum seals, but if you have the information ready, you can just do it in a number of hours. It's not too bad at all. So what I've been showing you is kind of from the nonprofit's perspective, right, of why you should update your profile. But I want to show you a bit more of what people are seeing when they come to look at your profile, and then also how you can use some of these tools. And so for that, I'm going to talk a bit about our search functionality, and there's some kind of different levels to that. So we offer a free search to anybody that wants it. Anyone that comes and signs up for our site can get access to information on 1.7 million nonprofits. They can filter in using a search engine and then filter by city and state and seal level. With that, you can download 3 years of 990s as well, so you can dive in a bit more. And then something that I just want to make sure that I highlight here is that any information that you all as an organization are updating on your profile is always free for the public to see at large. So the only information that we kind of charge a premium fee for is information that we're actually digitizing from the IRS data and then making available. So again, when you come and update your profile, don't worry, that information is getting out there to the larger nonprofit sector at large. So that premium level information, that's a program that we call GuideStar Pro. And so these are mostly people that are working in the nonprofit sector. Maybe it's foundations or maybe it's financial analysts that are recommending to their clients what organizations they should or shouldn't give to. And then we do have lots of nonprofits as well that use this information. So what I want to show you now is, and I started to earlier, but it's some of that information that you're going to see on a pro profile. And so a lot of that, again, all of this information is supplied by you all, the nonprofits, so this is going to be free, but it's that financial information that we were looking at earlier. And so I'm going to talk you through what some of that is and kind of how it's useful from your perspective and from the perspective of someone that may be evaluating your organization. So again, this is the financial chart that I was showing you earlier. You can easily see kind of growth or the lack thereof over time on a number of different revenue and expense-based factors. You can see kind of how that's changing over time and really dive in. Next up are these pre-calculated financial metrics. And so a lot of this information, we work with partners that are kind of the experts in certain nonprofit areas. And so for our financial information, we worked with an organization that's called Nonprofit Finance Fund. They're kind of the leaders when it comes to financial information related to nonprofit organizations. So I just want to go through some of these quick pre-calculated financial metrics. Now, this information is based on data that comes to us via the IRS, and so it's only available for the organizations that update that or that fill out a full Form 990, not the easy nor the N, the postcard version. So just want to flag that. But if you're one of those larger organizations that does update the full 990, then you're going to see these pieces of financial information about yourself. So I'm going to click on these tooltips so you can see I am not a financial expert myself, but the short version of the story is that for each of these statistics, particularly the liquidity and months of cash, what someone would be looking for is just a higher number, right? The higher that number, the better off and the more stable you are as an organization. And so that's the same thing for liquidity and months of cash. Fringe rate, the easiest way to explain this is that the higher it is, and this is really a ratio of benefits over total wages. And so the higher this is, it's kind of the better off for you all as someone that works at that nonprofit organization. That's the simple way to think about that. But again, you can read those tooltips. Someone that's looking at this can read those tooltips and you can learn more about those individual statistics. Again, growth here over source, right? So this is just another way of looking at how much are you getting from contributions, how much are you getting from program services and from other revenue. Lots of foundations want to see this before giving you a grant because again, it's just that diversity of financial income. How diverse are you as an organization? If their grant goes away, are you going to be able to sustain your programs? Assets and liabilities, again, you're going to want to make sure that this leads to that liquidity in months of cash. The higher your assets are compared to the liabilities, the better. And then you're going to dive into this. And so again, this was created, this is the financial trends analysis, and this was created with Nonprofit Finance Fund. And so what this starts to show is not just at a one-year basis, but going back over the last 5 years, how is your organization growing or the lack thereof in a number of different categories. Again, you can just dive in here, focusing on these little tooltips to see what each of these means. We worked on the wording of these with Nonprofit Finance Fund, and it's a great way to show your financial health. So one of the things that you could do, and we hear this from a number of nonprofits, is that they do like to use this information as an example to show to foundations and to other funders that they are indeed financially healthy. And so you can see all this information kind of on the web form here, but the other thing that you can do is you can create a report based on this on your own organization. And that is going to be this report here, right? So it's exactly what you were just seeing, but in a PDF form. And we hear lots of nonprofits are using this. They're going to do it about once a year, save it, and then they attach it in with their grant applications to different foundations. So the same thing here, laid out with the information from the tooltip so that you can explain what's going on here, and you can then indeed prove to a foundation that you're in good standing, your finances are in good standing. And then you can dive in. There's a lot more to dive in, but I'm just going to kind of breeze through this now so that you know that. The other thing that you can do as an organization, if you want to go one step further, is that you can download the PDF on your own organization. And so this is the full PDF, not just that financial information, but some of it is included on your organization. So lots of that information that you saw on your profile would then be in this PDF. One of the awesome things that we're doing, and we're going to really focus on this as Candid moving forward, is that we're working with foundations to encourage them to really use these pro PDFs, these pro reports, as either their letter of intent as you are potentially about to apply for a grant application, or just your actual grant application. If you come and are updating this information, so much of it is what you would be updating on a grant application. So let's work together as a sector and to make it so that it's just easier for you to go ahead and apply for those grants. That's going to get the foundations better information, and it's going to allow you all to focus on your mission. So we're pretty excited about working with additional foundations to do that. So I want to take a second here to step back and think through how you all feel about your own organization's financial health, because I want to show you one of the other tools that GuideStar has that can help with this. Actually, it's a couple more tools. And so with that, we're going to launch another poll. And so simply, how confident are you in your organization's financial health? Very, moderately, somewhat, or not confident at all? And I'm going to let people answer as I take a sip of water because I've been talking for about 40 minutes straight. All right, great. In just a few more seconds, we'll keep getting some information in here. And I think we can go ahead and wrap up this poll and share the results now. So really a variety here. Some of you are very confident. The kind of plurality would be moderately confident. And then some of you are only somewhat confident or not confident at all. So what I'm going to show you now is a way that you can maybe understand how founded those beliefs are about your organization. So I'm going to switch back to the profile. And I already showed you, again, the financial trends dashboard, right? So you can see here how your kind of finances are changing. But what if you wanted to compare your organization to similar organizations? So what I'm going to do here is open a new GuideStar search window, and I'm going to find some similar organizations to mine. And again, I'm going to kind of wear my hat as if I was working for that Exceptional Minds organization. And so I'm going to start by filtering into California. They're a California-based organization. And what you're going to see here is the number of organizations that meet that criteria is going to go down more and more as we filter by each level. And so the next thing that I will do then is filter by cause area. And so they are a B22, I believe. I'm just going to switch back to their profile real quick and confirm that to myself here. And that is correct. It's B, their cause area here is B28. And so when I'm in the search profile, that's what I'm going to look for. So I've selected B already as the primary cause area. And then I'm going to go down to 28. In this case, this is a specialized educational institution for those that may have a disability. So again, now you're down to 342 organizations. So looking at Exceptional Minds, again, their finances, they're at about 3.5 million, just under it, in revenue. So want to find similar organizations to that. So I'm going to go to the financial filter, and I'm just going to type in 3 million as the cap, as this floor there, and then I'm going to do 5 million as the ceiling. And what you're getting there is 44 organizations. And so the first thing I would do then is find my own organization, and I have already saved that, so I'm just going to skip that step then. And then I would select more organizations that I want to use as a peer analysis. So I'd simply click on this button, and then that's going to open up this little prompt here to select those organizations. So here you are, you've selected these 5 that are similar to Exceptional Minds. And then here's what that report looks like, right? And so again, this is based on real data from real organizations that are similar to your organization. And so now you're not comparing it to your own organization over time, but rather to similar organizations to yours that you've hand selected. And so you can see here, the key is up here to each of the different organizations. So this is your organization, Exceptional Minds, and then here are the other organizations. And so you can see the difference in surplus. You can see the difference in revenue and kind of the composition of how they're getting their revenue. And you can also look at it kind of compared to these organizations, to these individual 4 organizations. And again, there's different ways you can look at it. The profitability, we all know we're not nonprofits, but we do need profit from time to time. Revenue, expenses, liquidity, balance sheet composition. You can then print this report if you want to save it, very similar to the way that you would have with your PDF. Or if you want to dive into the data, you can actually download it in Excel and dive in even deeper. There's one more step that I want to show you is if you actually want to compare your organization to all of these, right? You filtered in and all 44 of these organizations that you're seeing are relevant to you, right? They're in the same geography, the same cause area, and are about the same size. So you want to do a cohort analysis, was what that called. So you'd simply select all of these organizations and then select create cohort. So I've already gone ahead and done this, but you just create that organization, that cohort name here and click continue. And then in just a second, you would see a very similar result, right? That still has those 5 organizations, yourself included. It still has a peer analysis to those 4 in particular. But on top of it, you're then seeing a cohort analysis to all of that group of organizations. So we really think this is a great way for you to be able to dive in and better understand that financial health. So we kind of had you guess as a poll before this. This is just a great way to see how you're stacking up compared to your colleagues. So with that, we showed you the financial trends analysis. And so that's what you're going to get with GuideStar Pro. I just want to flag something that you can buy GuideStar Pro as a nonprofit and get a discount. And you can also just buy it for a month. So if you want to buy it for a seat of it for a month, nonprofit discount, it's only a few $100s. And then you can dive in, get all of these reports and kind of save them and use them as you go on to communicate with your potential donors and funders in the future. So with that, there's another tool that I want to talk to you about, and it's our nonprofit compensation report. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. We've been doing it for 19 years now, or this is going to be our 19th year. And what this allows you to do is to establish appropriate compensation for executives and people in your organization. We all know this is an IRS requirement. You must have fair and equitable compensation based on the different IRS rules. And this is a quick and easy way for you to do that. So the report is downloaded as a PDF, and it is based on data from the IRS from 990s and 990 EZs. Last year's was based on 160,000 different observations from 501c organizations. Again, it's updated annually, and statistics are broken down. You can kind of narrow in by these different categories, by your kind of geographical region, your cause area, your size, the gender of the person, and also their role. So there's 14 different job categories. The way that our report is run is not by the kind of title of the organization. You know, are they a director, or are they a manager, or are they a senior director, but rather are they that top? This is for the top kind of positions at each of the organizations. So you can see those 14 different categories that are laid out. And then I'm going to show you how to use the report. Again, the report itself is a PDF that you download, but you can navigate through the navigation pane in the PDF in your Adobe window, and then start to narrow in more. So for this, we're going to just say that you're a Florida-based organization that's trying to figure out how much you should pay your CEO or executive director. And so for that, you're narrowing in on Florida as your geography, and then you're narrowing in on your NTEE code, or that's your caused area. So that's your human services is what's been selected here. And then you're seeing information here for organizations that are 500,000 or less, and then organizations going up to between $1 million and $5 million. That information is then broken down into percentiles. You can see that that kind of median is highlighted, but you're also going to see the 10th, 25th, 75th, and 90th percentile as well. So you can start to see a range there. And if your compensation of the individual that you're exploring is in that kind of 25th to 75th percentile, then that probably is going to be a reasonable compensation that you could offer. But let's say you want to narrow in even more. You're in a major metropolitan area like Orlando. So you want to do the same thing and you want to just narrow in even more specifically to Orlando. You can do that. We have dozens of different what are called MSAs or metropolitan statistical areas that you can narrow in on for major cities and all over the country. And again, so you're narrowing in now by geography all the way down to the kind of city area or the region, by type of organization, and then the job title or the position of the person. This is the lead of the organization, the CEO, executive director, and then by the size of organization. So one more way that you can look at this is if you want to evaluate what a good raise would be potentially for an executive that you're evaluating. So again, now you're looking at Florida, human services, and between a certain size. And what you're seeing here is not the overall salary of that person, but actually their change in an incumbent's change in compensation. So you can see here the median raise was just about 1%, and the 25th percentile was actually a decrease potentially. On the 75th percentile was about an 8% raise. So another great way, if it's not a new individual that you're evaluating their compensation, but rather an existing employee, an incumbent, this is a great way for you to see that. So who should use this report? So ask yourself this question. Is your organization's compensation package complicated and well above the norm? If so, this may not be the right report for you. You may want to talk to a tax attorney that is going to be able to give you better insight into that. But if your organization has kind of standard compensation packages and is kind of amongst the norm, then this is a great resource for you. Thousands of organizations use this report each year. And again, we've been running it for about the last 20 years or so. So it's a great resource for you if you're in an HR or maybe on a board of an organization, a great and easy way for you to evaluate compensation. All right, so with that, we're going to start talking about some of the other Candid resources. And Julieta is going to join me for this because for the time being, we still have a lot of kind of GuideStar resources and Foundation Center resources, and that's going to change. But for the time being, we think that there's lots of great content that we can be providing to you. And she talked a little bit about GrantSpace earlier. A great place for you to go for kind of general information about the nonprofit sector that is really mostly tailored towards nonprofits is our blog. You can sign up for our blog and you can read blog posts by just going to trust.guidestar.org. And then when you do that, you'll be signed up for a bi-weekly newsletter that comes to your inbox and gives you a highlight of the kind of top blogs from the last couple of weeks. About 400,000 individuals are signed up for it. We think it's probably actually one of the largest kind of megaphones, if you will, that exists in the nonprofit sector, and really very actively read and loved by our users. Lots of great information on fundraising best practices and transparency best practices, governance best practices, all sorts of stuff like that. So Julieta, do you want to talk a little bit about those resources from the kind of classic Foundation Center side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Gabe, and thank you for that great presentation. So yes, earlier I gave you a demo of GrantSpace. So under resources, as you may recall, you can have access to the GrantSpace blog. It's basically a curation of articles written by social sector leaders that are giving a fresh take on everything from fundraising to data management, and we publish our articles almost once a week. So if you sign up for the blog, you will be getting them directly in your inbox. In addition to the GrantSpace blog, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, GrantSpace really focuses on developing and informing the skills of nonprofit professionals, right, in fundraising, organizational sustainability, leadership, and management. We have another resource called Philanthropy News Digest, which is also featured here on this slide. And if you go to Philanthropy News Digest, we also have a blog from there called Philantopic. And this one here also features a lot of expert thought leadership and opinions from many of the experts in the social sector. But beyond that, the really cool thing about PND is that it also tells you when RFPs are coming out, when request for proposals, that's what RFP stands for. So foundations, if they have a grant application that that is open for submissions, you will find out about those through Philantopic. We also share information on jobs available in the nonprofit and philanthropic sectors, and then of course you can find additional information on let's say grant writers. If you are a nonprofit, a small nonprofit, and you're looking for someone to help you with your grant writing, you can find potential consultants to work with on our classified section of PND. So a lot of information, as Gabe was saying, we're still we still have our products kind of living in separate spaces, but we're working on that. So pardon our dust, as they say, and we hope that we will be able to very soon present a more seamless interface as Candid. Gabe, back to you.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. And so another way that we kind of both have dueling resources is with white papers and reports. And I'll say that GuideStar's resources really pale in comparison to Foundation Center's resources. But GuideStar does have a number of different white papers and reports that we put out over the years, including one on nonprofit executive compensation that can help you really understand that compensation report that I just showed. And you can find those resources by clicking on the resources tab at the bottom of our footer, but also just by going to learn.guidestar.org/news/publications. Great information on IRS Forms 990, diving in on overhead myth, how to kind of bust the overhead myth. There's some great information on there. And then additional information on kind of financial health of nonprofit organizations and what you can do if you do happen to be one of those organizations that isn't confident in your finances. Julieta, you want to talk a bit about IssueLab?
Yeah, absolutely. So IssueLab is really a great resource for any nonprofit organization, or really anyone that is doing research or that needs to collect evidence for a particular program that they might be designing. It's also a great resource if you're writing a proposal and you need evidence for the work that you're doing. Highly recommend that you go to IssueLab. What is IssueLab? So it's basically a curation of white papers, research, articles that have been published in the sector, in philanthropy and nonprofit, all available through this great site. And we have the link there. So we basically have lessons learned in the field. We have browsable website that's set up to collect and share the social sector's knowledge. It's been around since 2012, and our mission has grown beyond the simple collection and distribution of knowledge products to include the support of social sector organizations in adopting the practical and necessary steps to openly publishing what they fund and what they produce. So highly recommend this site. Just to give you an idea of some of the collections that we have, some of the by collections we mean some of the types of publications and research that we have on here. We have a democracy special collection, gun violence special collection, immigration strategy special collection, Affordable Care Act, race and policing, and so many others. We also reference some knowledge centers. So we have the New York Foundation Knowledge Center, the European Foundation Knowledge Center, Trust Africa's Trust Africa's African Giving Knowledge Center. So a lot of great tools here, again, for any research or any program design or proposal writing that you might be doing. If you need evidence, statistics, this is the great place to go. Highly recommended.
Thanks, Julieta. And I think we're going to move over now and focus on some of the great questions that we have coming in. So again, if you haven't had a chance to submit your questions, you can do that in the GoToWebinar pane that says questions. And I think we're going to start into some now, right?
Yes, absolutely. So our colleague Elizabeth here is going to be tuning in and will be sharing many of the questions that have been coming in throughout the presentation. But to get us started, there is one that that was very very popular during our presentations, and I want to address that one right away. So people have been asking if they have to create another account to access GrantSpace or any of the GuideStar sites. If separate accounts are required, and the answer is that yes. So even if you already subscribe to Foundation Directory Online, for example, you do need a separate account for GrantSpace, and you do need a separate account for GuideStar. Now, we don't charge to subscribe to GrantSpace or to GuideStar. That's the great news. You create an account for free, and you can begin accessing all of our resources. And likewise, if you already have an account for GrantSpace, you do have to subscribe separately for FDO, for Foundation Directory Online, and also, again, for GuideStar. Is there anything else that you want to share on that, Gabe?
Yeah, I would just add that, this is one of those things that as we really become truly one organization that we're going to address using single sign-on. So in the future, that may not be the case. And as Julieta said, pardon our dust as that process happens. But for the time being, you will need to have separate accounts. In the future, that may not be the case, but for now, that is the case.
Great, thank you. And Elizabeth, we are looking to you now. What other questions are coming in from our audience?
Thank you for inviting me on. This has been a really informative webinar, and we've been getting lots of questions. So I wanted to actually start out with a question that we got from our watch party in DC. And they want to know, do you have to have a 1 seal before you can move to higher levels? So if you already have a bronze seal, do you need that to move on to your silver? Or if you input all of your data, can you automatically jump to platinum? Gabe?
Yeah, great question, and that the latter is true. The more information you earn, the more information you enter, you can just jump right ahead. So if you're in that back end that I showed earlier, where you're updating your profile and you go through and you get all the bronze information filled and the silver information and gold, then you've got gold. And one of the things you'll see, and I'm just going to switch over to that tab now. When you're updating your profile, there's this little progress bar up at the top, right? So this is GuideStar's old profile. So again, we're all the way through platinum. But when you are updating, this is really helpful because maybe you missed one thing in bronze. And if you did, you would not be able to get silver. So you can jump ahead, but you do have to complete the previous section. And so this is a great little tool so that you can see that and you can really make sure that you're getting each of the different sections.
Thank you for that clarification, Gabe. And again, our folks in DC are really excited about our seals. One of the organizations already has a 2018 Platinum seal, so they want to know what's new about the 2019 seal.
Great, yeah, good question. So I am going to scroll back on these slides, and that's going to help answer this question. So bear with me as I scroll back here. And here is the 2019 Platinum Seal of Transparency. So just taking a step back, one of the changes that we made a few years ago was we used to just give you a seal and it didn't have a year associated with it. But what we've decided to do starting in 2017 is to add a year to it. And what that allows to happen is 2 different things. One, it's a bit of an incentive structure for you all as a nonprofit to keep giving fresh information, to come and update each year. And then that also allows for someone that's looking at your profile to know how fresh that information is, right? You know that if you've got a 2018 seal, it was at least updated in 2018. One of the other things that we do then is we work with that huge network of over 200 different partners that are using that information to figure out what else they would want to see. And so we do add new fields, and occasionally we make those fields mandatory for that year's seal. So going from a 2018 platinum seal to a 2019 platinum seal is that there's two new things that you have to do. First, you'll have to add a metric from last year. And so you probably had 2017 metrics before, but you'll have to add 2018 again to get that fresh information. And then two other little pieces of information we want to know about that metric. First, is it an input, output, outcome, context, or another type of statistic? There's a lot of talk in the sector right now about how meaningful these different metrics can be, not just in our platform, but really all over the place. We're agnostic as to whether it's an input, output, outcome, or other. But we do want to start to highlight those organizations that are able to track outputs and track outcomes, but we know that it does cost money, so we don't want to force anyone down that direction. So for now, it's just requiring that you say what type of metric it is. And then we also want you to just indicate if basically are you having success with that metric, because sometimes there would be a statistics, if you're measuring how many cases of a disease there are in a particular country, if that metric is going down, that's actually increasing the success that you're having. And so we do just want you to say that on your profile so that someone that's looking at it can easily see, the chances or the cases of this disease are going down. That's a net good thing for us. That means we're doing more good. And so we've added those two in the last year. Again, all of this is flagged in the profile. So when you're going to update, you'll see those fields. They will be highlighted and called out to you.
Thank you, Gabe. Julieta, this next question is for you. We wanted to know, Alessandra wants to know, what does Candid look like overseas? Are there any capacity building resources that, our folks who are running programs in other countries can access?
Thank you so much for that question, Elizabeth and Alessandra. Thank you for that question. So yes, Candid does have a presence overseas. We have something called the Funding Information Network. And this is basically a network of approximately 400 partners that are part of the Candid family, and they share our resources with their communities on the ground. So they provide some of our trainings as well as access to our databases like Foundation Directory Online, and hopefully very soon also GuideStar tools, I hope. And they provide them for free. So one of the values of that used to be a value of Foundation Center that continues to be very important to Candid is the democratization of information. So we want to make sure that everyone, regardless of the size of the organization and the budgets that these organizations might have, are able to access all of our information. And so we do that through the Funding Information Network. Now, you might be wondering, how do I find a Funding Information Network? So just very briefly, again, I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. All right, so when we go to GrandSpace, if you go to Find Us, you can also go down here to Funding Information Network Locations. And I just zoomed out, but on this map here, you can see where we have other partners located. So you'll see that we have 2 in Mexico, for example. We have 1 in Colombia. We have 1 in Nigeria, and then we have also 2 partners here in Europe. And if we zoom in a little more, we have a partner in Switzerland, the Geneva Center for Security Policy, and then a partner in Spain, Asociación Española de Fundaciones. So we are continuing to develop our international partners, specifically dedicated to building the capacity of the social sector in other parts of the world. So we are also inviting other organizations that might be interested in being part of the Funding Information Network to reach out to us. So Alessandra, I don't know where you're based, but if you know of any nonprofit organizations or foundations that might be interested, definitely feel free to reach out to us. And of course, if you click on this, you can see the profile of the organization and where they're located and their hours and contact information. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much for that, Julieta. Gabe, a clarifying question for you regarding which types of organizations can have a nonprofit profile. We have a couple folks on the line that are either under fiscal sponsorship, they use a separate organization's EIN, or they're registered as a nonprofit, but are still kind of falling into that religious entity category. Any recommendations on how if you have a GuideStar profile?
Yeah, great question. So if you want to know if you have a profile, just go ahead and go and search on GuideStar. That's the easiest way to find out. But let's talk a little bit about who can have a profile on GuideStar. So fiscally sponsored orgs currently cannot have their own profile on GuideStar, but it's one of the things that we're actively working on. This is one of the #1 questions we get when we're out there. And we know that it's an opportunity for us, and we are working on it. There's some kind of legal ramifications to it because of our verification partners, and so we're working with a series of lawyers to make sure that we do that the right way. But we are excited to offer that as an opportunity in the near future. The next question was about religious organizations. Religious organizations absolutely can have a profile on GuideStar. If you just start that process of going to update your profile, you'll be connected with one of our team of profile experts, and they will work with you to just make sure that you're meeting the requirements for your particular denomination. Once you have that, then we get you a profile with some of that baseline information, and then you can go in and update it just like any other organization. And so faith-based organizations, absolutely, even if you're not already in our system, you can get a profile. I saw a couple of other questions that I just want to go ahead and answer as well about who and who can't have a profile. One was, I think, a Nigerian organization. Right now, you have to be a US-based organization to have a profile on GuideStar. As we kind of get into Candid world, we do hope to expand internationally. We know how important that is and kind of how borders are being crossed from a philanthropic perspective these days. And so that's something that we will be working on in the future. The last question that I saw was about new organizations that may not fully be in, haven't filled out a 990 yet, right? So once you get your letter of determination, it's going to be at least a year before you're filling out that information and before that information shows up on GuideStar. So if you're a new organization, we really think that getting a profile on GuideStar is a great thing for you to do to substantiate yourself. You're not able to earn seals necessarily because I think you're going to earn a bronze seal of transparency, but that's it, because the financial information that is the silver seal, you would need to be operating for a full year first. But you can at least get your profile on there. You can send people to it just like you would otherwise. And I believe you can, as a brand new organization, earn at least a bronze seal of transparency. So hopefully that's helpful to the general audience.
Thank you, Gabe. And I think the last category that we had under that umbrella of who can have one was an interesting one. If someone has a donor advised fund affiliated with a community foundation, but they do operate a program, does that qualify them for a profile?
I believe this would fall into the fiscally sponsored organization category, that in the future they would be able to, but not right now. And again, yeah, there's all of these intricacies. A lot of people and organizations are kind of affiliated with universities in one way or another and use that university's EIN. And so again, we're working to break that, what we call EIN centricity, so that different kind of fiscally sponsored orgs or that example of a program that's operating under a donor advised fund community foundation would be able to have their own profile, but not currently as of today.
Thank you, Gabe. And Julieta, the next question is for you. We covered a lot of ground and we started with GrantSpace. So just a bit of clarification as to what type of content is available on GrantSpace for free versus what might have a fee associated with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Elizabeth, for that question. So the way that we price our offerings, the majority of our introductory courses, so any class that is really intro level on any of the core topics that we cover, are for the most part offered for free. And then when we have more intermediate or advanced courses, then we offer those for a fee. In addition to that, though, we also have a different set of programs that we offer, that we refer to as convenings. For these types of programs, they are not so much skill building classes as they are more kind of these like large, like broader level conversations where we invite outside experts to come and talk to our nonprofit audience about, some of the most pressing issues, right, in the sector. So for those types of events, they are usually for free. In some cases, we do charge a nominal fee, and it really varies on the region. We try to tailor our prices based on, where we're hosting this program to make sure that it's affordable for folks in the community. So, definitely check out GrantSpace. There on GrantSpace, we have the prices listed for all of our programs, all of our courses, and it will show you whether something is free or something is or whether we are charging a nominal fee for something.
Absolutely. And to echo that, I would also encourage you to just explore the knowledge base articles are definitely very rich with information, as is the blog, and tons of videos on there as well for you to access. So plenty of information.
And if I may add, Elizabeth, I would say that over 90% of the offerings that we provide here through Candid are free. So we definitely try to stay true to our mission in making sure that we are serving the sector. So there is a lot for you to chew on GrantSpace, and we highly recommend that you do take that tour.
Thank you, Julieta. Gabe, our next question comes from Gabe, and he wants to know, for them to get their nonprofit profile started, is there anywhere that you would direct them to look for good examples, or kind of just where could they get a template perhaps that they could follow? Or is it really just going through the process and answering the questions and making sure all that information is up to date?
Yeah, so the best place to go for all of that information is just guidestar.org/update. You can also go to the help or support section of our profile and just ask a question of where can I get resources to help me update my profile, and you'll see a whole bunch of resources. Everything from ways that you can ask one-on-one questions with our support staff to videos that literally walk you through that process of updating your profile, to the Word document, the template that I talked about earlier, so that you can update that information on your own and have it ready to copy and paste in, to I believe there are examples listed of great organizations. But another thing to do there is that anybody for free can use GuideStar's search functionality to just filter by profile level, by seal level. And so you could maybe select organizations in your state, and then filter in by organizations that are platinum in your state, and then you'd see a bunch of organizations that are kind of similar to yours in geography and that have earned those seals of transparency, and you can look at what they did and maybe get some ideas from that.
Thank you. And then I know you mentioned common results earlier throughout the presentation, and how those were used within the GuideStar profiles. But do you have any information on how you can actually access or view where those common results are?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of ways you can do it. The best way is probably just to Google GuideStar Common Results Catalog, and it should come up as the first result. If not, it can be accessed under guidestar.org/platinum. And then lastly, as you go to update your profile, those results are built into the backend program and functionality that allows you to find them, and really you can search through it and just type in keywords and you'll get a bunch of results back. But we've heard that it's one of the things that people like to look at as kind of a PDF document, and so you can absolutely download it by just searching out, just Googling GuideStar Common Results Catalog.
Thank you. And Carla has a really interesting question about the compensation report. Her organization currently functions as all volunteer. So what aspects of the report would you highly recommend for organizations that are volunteer run?
If you're a volunteer run, then the compensation report probably doesn't have too much to offer you because you're not compensating anybody. So I think our other tools, the financial trends analysis, as long as you're a large enough organization, it doesn't necessarily matter that you don't have any paid employees. If you're still large enough, then that can be a great thing for you or board members to look at and see that financial health of your organization. But the compensation report probably, or really isn't a great tool for all volunteer run organizations.
Thank you. And Jay has a great follow-up question here. He wants to know if there's any review of the Platinum Seal to make sure that metrics are more than just the activity of the organization.
So yeah, it's a good question. And we have more than 170,000 organizations that have updated their profile at some point. It's currently almost 70,000 organizations that have a seal of transparency. And as a nonprofit, we have limited resources to really go through and validate every single thing that's entered. But as it relates to Jay's question, we do allow, even if it's just an activity, we allow it. You can put an input or an output in as your platinum statistic. And that's what I was talking about with the 2019 seal. You are able to say if something is an input, output, or outcome, but you're allowed to enter anywhere kind of on that range or that spectrum of different types of metrics. So there is not necessarily a review that's built into that, but I will say what we do is if anybody ever sees anything that looks wrong, incorrect, or fraudulent on our profiles, they can report it through our support team, and then we launch an investigation to figure out if there's anything that we can find that does appear as though it's fraudulent. We then go through a process of contacting the organization to see if it was simply a mistake or if there was something more nefarious that's happening, and we do remove seals and remove information if at the end of the day we do feel that that's the case.
Thanks, Gabe. Feel free to continue submitting your questions. We still do have another couple of minutes, but just for clarification, because we have gotten a couple questions in terms of anyone who's created a free GuideStar profile or account, what is the difference between what they can see and someone who might be paying for that Pro and Plus subscription? So who's really using that Pro and Plus, and what are they seeing versus the free user who's accessing GuideStar profiles?
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up this question. I just want to take a minute to kind of explain what's free and what has a fee with it on GuideStar's site. So one thing that I need to reiterate here that I don't think I touched on earlier is that updating your profile as a nonprofit and earning one of those seals of transparency is completely free for the nonprofits. There's absolutely no fee to come in, update that information, earn your seal. All of that is free. And then again, that information that is updated by you all, the nonprofits, all of that, as well as some basic information that we get via the IRS database, is available for free to our general users. And as Julieta mentioned on the Foundation Center side, it's something like 99.95% of users on GuideStar are getting that information for free. We are a nonprofit and we're mission driven, and so we do want to make sure to get that information out there. The premium information that you can get with GuideStar Pro is going to be information that falls into a couple of different categories. More often than not, that information is updated, information that we digitize from 990s. So believe it or not, there is still a huge percentage of people and organizations that are submitting old-fashioned paper 990s through the IRS. There's a series that we go through to then hand code that information and update it to our database, or if it's electronically filed, we have to clean and scrub that information and make sure that it's processed in the right, what are called schemas. And then that information may be available as part of that Pro subscription. So again, free for nonprofits to update, and then that information that they update is always free for our users.
Thank you so much, Gabe, for that. We have run out of time. It is 3:30 now, and we want to be respectful of everybody's time. We just want to say thank you again to everyone who joined us, to our colleagues in Washington, D.C., our colleagues in San Francisco, and everywhere else where you might be. Thank you, and we hope that this was very informative and helpful for you to understand what Candid looks like and how we will continue to be committed to helping nonprofits build their capacity. And so with that, Gabe, unless, do you have anything else, any final words that you want to say before we take off?
I don't think so. Thanks everybody for joining us today.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Elizabeth, for helping out. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Thanks everybody.